So in my last video about Portland, I had my own impressions and opinions about what was going on, but since then I've heard quite a bit of different takes on it. And while I don't agree with all of them, I do agree with this. I agree that people do have a right to peacefully protest. I do. And I don't think that we should deploy the National Guard against a peaceful protest. However, with that being said, in the last couple of days, we've seen a lot of updates in reference to what's going on in Portland. So I hope to see some peacefulness so that I can declare that I was wrong. I hope that I'm wrong, but if I'm not, if I'm not wrong, I promise you that I will have a lot to say in regards to not being wrong. Because I mean, I don't like being right all the time, but I don't like being wrong either. So let's see what's going on.
A long-running encampment outside of an immigration customs and enforcement facility in Portland has been taken down by police, and a man was arrested after a journalist was assaulted near the facility. NTD correspondent Jason Blair is in Portland now. Good evening, Jason. What is the current situation after the encampment got taken down?
Hey, Tiffany. Yeah.
Also, it's down an encampment? Hold on, I hope there's footage of that. Encampments are cool as long as they impede other people's activities. Like if I want to go to the park and you at the park camped out on the basketball court and I want to shoot some hoops, you are in the way, okay? you are in the way. The federales need to come, all right? If I'm driving down the street and make a left turn and you got an encampment in the middle of the street, you are in the way, okay? All right, you are in the way. The federales need to come. If I'm headed to the grocery store and you're camped out in front of it, guess again, you are in the way, okay? You are in the way. The federales need to come. So I'm not really upset with the fact that they, dismantled this encampment. The only way I would digress and take that back and say, you know what, I'm wrong, is if they were out of the way. But they were in the way, okay? Federales need to come.
So this has been a long-running encampment in some form or another for about 4 or 5 months now, right across the street from the ICE facility in Portland, Oregon. And the police did come by last night to make them take it down. And here I do have a clip actually of what the current state of the encampment is. Just moments ago when I took it, you can see that.
Hey, they got a grill out here too? Okay, I'll say this. This is not a problem. Because the sidewalk is still traversable. Sure, they are on the sidewalk or whatever like that. But to me, I feel like I could walk through that and not feel like you're stopping me from making progress in my journey. So in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with this. This is an A-OK camp. Okay, this is a camp that you can keep. Go ahead and run this camp. So at this point, I haven't found any evidence that they're not being peaceful. Look at him, he's smiling and laughing and stuff. Like I don't see any evidence of them not being peaceful so far. So let's see if it gets any worse.
Canopy back up already, and a lot of the stuff is still strung out on the sidewalk. However, I do have footage of it from last night, as you can see, when they were taking it down, when the police arrived. There were a lot of tents up, and like I said, this had been going on for about 4 or 5 months. And the main reason the police...
Why look, somebody's still in there? So you can't bring a tent, like, hold on. I know an encampment is for camping, but you can't really sleep out there overnight. Like, go home, come back again tomorrow. Like, no, that's too much, man. That's too much. At that point, you're camping. You're not protesting anymore. You're having a peaceful camping trip. You're supposed to be actively protesting while you're there. If you're not protesting, you have to go home. That's how all the other protests I've seen been. They hang out for a while with their signs, and then at a certain time they be like, all right, y'all, it's time to bounce, and they all leave. But in this case, that's not happening. They're spending the night and stuff. Like, what are y'all going to achieve while you're sleeping? Just come back when you're refreshed. You don't need a tent.
Police wanted to take it down as they need to keep the sidewalk open so people can use it. And a police sergeant said last night that they are going to be...
Oh, remember I said about being in the way?
A lot of tents up, and like I said, this had been going on for about 4 or 5 months. And the main reason the police wanted to take it down is they need to keep the sidewalk open so people can use...
Exactly. So the people are trying to go on their journey and traverse on the sidewalk, but they can't because it's jam-packed full of people who aren't moving anywhere. Therefore, you're not walking. You're side standing. You're in the way. What did I say about being in the way? When you're in the way, that's not okay. So now the people who are walking down the street walk into people who are side standing, and they got to side go around to get to the other side, in which they go on about their business, which is dangerous because now you have to enter the street. Now, I understand these aren't children. If you're going to enter the street, you should be relatively safe. But still, for liability purposes, it's not the smart thing to do. But you have to, because these people are side standing. They're not walking. So yeah, you got to remove them, because being in the way is not okay.
And a police sergeant said last night that they are going to be coming into the area more often to get more strict with enforcing laws in this area for, quote, the next couple of days. And this includes cracking down on public drinking, disorderly conduct, and jaywalking. And he said if someone is blocking traffic, that it will be disorderly conduct in the second degree, and someone can actually go to jail for that, which blocking traffic has been an ongoing issue with the facility. Cars are constantly driving in and people are spilling over in the sidewalk, and I think this encampment was contributing to that quite a bit. The encampment was also kind of a source of lots of fights. Sometimes people, especially when some of the pro-ICE supporters would try to walk through that area, there would often be a confrontation leading to sometimes a physical altercation with injuries.
So that sounds like a disqualifier for being peaceful to me. Okay. You're starting fights now? You're starting fights? Who are you starting fights with? Hold on.
Yeah, Tiffany, unfortunately, this kind of thing is not too uncommon. A journalist named Cam Higby said that he was assaulted, and also his phone was stolen and smashed while he was filming in the area. He's often at the ICE facility filming and reporting on the situation. He says that he regularly gets death threats when he's out doing this. And this isn't the first time that he's been attacked, but a gentleman was arrested related to this assault, and he was taken into custody by the Portland police. And just to give you another example of kind of the things that happened here, another journalist said that just the other day she was eating in a restaurant with some of her friends, and one of the protesters regularly at the ICE facility recognized them and started live streaming them sat next to them at the table, started live streaming their private conversation. Eventually this person was asked to leave the hotel, but this is just some of the interesting things that have gone on in the area involving journalists.
So basically we have here protests that aren't peaceful, because you are beating up your ops. Like, your ops can't even use the sidewalk. So here come your ops. You're like, what's the password? They don't know they don't know the password because they're not on your team. So you beat them up. That is crazy, man. That is why I agree with so far we're 1-0. We have like 3 other videos to go. We have like one. I'm up 1 so far. Okay. I still agree that peaceful protests should be allowed. That's me. But now you're doing fisticuffs with the people who are showing up as your ops. Like, they don't agree with you, so now you want to fight? What? You think you own the sidewalk? No, it's for the public. That includes them too. So at this point, I think it's pretty safe to say that, and it's probably a small margin of people. But if you're running the protest and you're aware of people in your protest that are not being peaceful, you should make them leave. We don't need you here. All you're doing is hurting our cause, and you're giving them grounds to remove us from protesting what we're doing. Man, interesting. Super interesting here. But that's it for this one. I really wonder if things improve with other reports. Okay. So now someone lives right on the corner, like in the I guess they're condos. They live in the condos right on the corner, it's apartments. Same thing. They live in apartments on the corner that overlooks the ICE facility. So they're basically a fly on the wall seeing everything that's happening. So I really wonder what we'll see from an unbiased position, because they're not media, they're not left or right. I mean, they might be, but they're in a position to where it doesn't seem like it's going to be influenced one way or another. It's like a top-down look on what's happening. Gary's Landing is an affordable housing complex that's only 300 feet from Portland's ICE building. Okay.
Actually having a protest every day is normal. Every day, all day. It's just the size varies.
Protesters and federal officers have been a regular presence there since June 2025. Like, it's basically almost December, like 6 months of this.
I'm just letting you know that at any moment we might have to go because this is usually where things start. Then they start tear gassing. So if that happens, we'll just rush in, close the door, and then we'll be fine. Lately, since Trump's announcement about Portland, there's been a huge uptick in people interested in the situation and the movement.
I mean, he's talking about the city's on fire, but every news outlet's got a bunch of people in inflatable costumes. I live right here. I mean, I can't breathe sometimes at night. I'm scared. We're not collateral damage. We're American citizens, but we are absolutely being treated as collateral damage.
She wants to go.
So far, so good. It seems pretty chill. They got bubbles. They got costume people out there. I'm not gonna lie to you. My favorite costume out there is the frog guys. That makes me wonder if these costumes they're wearing is designed to make onlookers see them as non-threatening. Because you see, if you go to Disney somewhere, and you see all these people in their costumes, you be like, oh, it's pretty safe. Or if you go anywhere for that matter, and people dress up like that, you don't think there's anything. You don't think anything is going to happen. If you're embedded into a protest that's not peaceful, and you got these guys standing around, perhaps there's nothing happening.
Outside and see all the inflatables because she loves the inflatable and the chicken. I try to explain to her. She's only 3. For the most part, she kind of knows because she went from learning about standing up for herself at school to now standing up to this.
At least 3 is allowed on the balcony while the protests are calm, but it's taken back inside before agents begin deploying chemicals.
Yeah, you can see right here, with the green lights on behind them. It's not okay. We don't even feel safe in our own home, and our ventilation system is absolutely, it's been contaminated. It feels like we're in some war-torn country because of all the, effects we've had on our lives.
And she'll have her time. You're welcome. There are people who support it, so they don't mind the noise. They know what people are out there for. How do you blame the protesters for the chemicals being shot? They're not the ones shooting it.
Okay, in this case, I'm going to concede and say it's 1-1 now, because based on this material here, maybe it's being dressed up this way, which is why outlets really does matter. Where is it coming from? What is their stances? How do they believe? What do they feel? What do they think? But currently, based on just what I see, it seems as though they're collateral damage in a situation that doesn't require all this extra stuff. And the National Guard is not even there. It's unfair to them. They're in their house, they're in their crib, chilling, they're cooking, whatever they're doing. Whatever you do in your crib, they're doing it too. And they have to deal with the riot gas, CS gas, entering their home on a daily basis. And they can't just move. You got a lease. So yeah, I think when it comes to that, I will have to say that the violence coming from ICE, it's not just targeted at the protesters at this point. It's targeted at everyone, which is the wrong approach. Can I think of a better approach? I can't. I don't know what better way to dissolve a mob. I don't know. But if you actively know that what you're doing is harming those who live right there in front of your building, then maybe you should find a new strategy. So at this point, you won one and I won another one. Let's see in the next video, another outlet that I don't know. So we're going to see what's going on in this one to kind of get an idea of if deploying the National Guard is a good idea and if people are actually being peaceful.
So Thomas, what have we learned so far?
Yeah, well, guys, in day 1 of the trial, the most startling revelation here is that 9 National Guard troops were actually deployed outside the ICE facility one afternoon and evening after the judge in this case ordered a temporary restraining order blocking any deployment of troops. Judge Karen Emmerich told the Trump administration at the trial yesterday that they will discuss later whether that's contempt. The courtroom was packed as Oregon, California, and the city of Portland take on the Trump administration. The trial began with Portland police taking the stand, testifying they have control of the situation outside the ICE facility in South Portland. For months, a small group of protesters have gathered outside the building, occasionally clashing with federal officers. Oregon, California, and Portland argue the Trump administration is overstepping its authority by deploying National Guard troops.
This is a systematic attempt by the president.
I'm sorry. I'm just really confused about the whole idea that the president can deploy the National Guard. I'm pretty sure that, and I'm probably wrong. I'm gonna look it up right now, but I'm pretty sure that I'm not off base by thinking that the president can't deploy the National Guard against himself. He can only recommend it, and then it's up to the state to utilize the recommendation by deploying the Guard for their own best interests. Meaning that he can deploy the National Guard overseas, but as far as deploying them here, I don't know if that's true. He can be adamant about about it being necessary, convincing those who run the state to use them under his instructions, sure. But at the end of the day, I really do believe that it's up to the state to decide, right? And the president deploy the National Guard in the U.S. Wow, it's been over 200 years since it's been allowed. The Insurrection Act of 1807 is a U.S. federal law that empowers the President of the United States to nationally deploy the U.S. military and to federalize the National Guard units of individual states in specific circumstances, such as the suppression of civil disorder, of insurrection, and armed rebellion. Okay, so we got 3 qualifiers. There's probably more, but we only see 3 right now. Civil disorder, insurrection, and armed rebellion. So under the law, so I do understand that I am wrong. I am wrong. That, he does have the power to deploy the military against the states. So why doesn't he send the reserves then? Or active duty army? Why specifically the National Guard? That's what confuses me, because I don't think that you can deploy active duty army and army reserve within the United States unless it's in support of a external mission or training within the United States. Can the Army Reserve be deployed to mitigate civil unrest? Yes, the Army Reserve can be deployed to help mitigate civil unrest, although this is less common and more complex scenario than deployments for the National Guard. And I believe that's because Army Reserve are federal and they gotta be used for federal reasons. Like, you can't deploy them to the state in the same manner. But why? While the National Guard is the primary force for domestic emergencies, including civil unrest, the Army Reserve can be called up for federal missions, and reserve members can be mobilized for domestic missions, CONUS, because CONUS is overseas. Under certain circumstances, including assisting at civil disturbances, reserve members can be involuntarily mobilized for various missions, including those within the U.S. So why even bother with the National Guard if you could just send the reserves? I don't know. That's weird, right? That's really weird. It's really weird. Probably gonna edit this part out because I'm having internal conflict about why the National Guard and not the Army Reserve when that's not even a relevant question. The relevant question is, number one, why isn't the National Guard there yet? Matter of fact, let's see if they are there.
The courtroom was packed as Oregon, California, and the city of Portland take on the Trump administration. The trial began with Portland police taking the stand, testifying they have control of the situation outside the ICE facility in South Portland. For months, a small group of protesters have gathered outside the building, occasionally clashing with federal officers. Oregon, California, and Portland argue the Trump administration is overstepping its authority by deploying National Guard troops.
This is a systematic attempt by the president to really attack pillars of our democracy.
The feds argue the president has the right to deploy federalized troops.
Yo, who was that guy? Is he AI? Like, what? Did he have a name? Oh, who is that?
This is a systematic attempt by the president to really attack pillars of our democracy.
His name's Dan Rayfield. I gotta see who that is. Dan Rayfield. They try to hide his name from me. I don't like that. Dan Rayfield. Oregon Attorney General. Okay. What he says is super important. All right, I'm cool.
The feds argue the president has the right to deploy federalized troops, saying federal officers at the ICE facility are stretched thin and need help protecting the building. The state of Oregon is seeking a permanent injunction to block the troop deployment fully. Legal experts also tell us that this case has broad legal implications over state sovereignty as well as presidential powers. Regardless of the decision in this 3-day trial, guys, it is expected to be appealed. Corey, China.
All right, so I think that right at this point is win. So I got one. You win, got one, and that one's a draw. Because the reason why I say that, because the National Guard still isn't there. They're still not there. And actually, if you think about it, the fact that the president does have more control than I originally thought, I thought that he could just recommend the state to do it, and the state takes his recommendations, that's on them. But now we know that he has the ability just to send them, right? So the fact that they're not there is kind of telling. Now, to go further, I think it's important to observe that if we want to send them there, there hasn't been an apparent reason. And so far, I haven't seen one yet, because I feel like so far, everything that we've seen, the police can handle if they take their job seriously and get out of their own way and just do what they're supposed to do. But there's been times, especially in my last video, where you've seen certain officers just not willing to do anything about what's going on. So currently, the National Guard's not there based on a court decision by some judges. I think it's a good thing, because I do think that they can handle it on their own. However, I don't think there's anything wrong with more help. Because the thing about it is, I do think that if the federal agents do need support, we should be more than happy and willing to send in the National Guard to support them. We should be willing to do that. Not because we hate the people, but because we have to protect the federal agents that are there. I think the National Guard being deployed is a bad thing, but as long as we're supporting our troops, our federal agents and what we got going on in Portland, I think we'll be okay. So so like as far as Portland being underwater and being and all the peaceful protests being attacked and all of that, it's not what it looks like. However, if it ever came down to that, I'll be 100% on board with sending the troops in. So I just got to edit in the video you're watching, or just got done watching. So if you made it to the end, do me a solid, and please subscribe to the channel. I promise to bring more content like this as we grow, and as we grow, the content will get better. But first, just do me a solid and hit subscribe. It's really easy. Watch me do it.